education. That involves, like in farming, clearing the bushes, raking the grass, tilling the soil, and planting the right seeds. Seeds of understanding, seeds of sincerity, seeds of readiness to give up this or that thing offensive to one or the other, and seeds that you cherish very much. This is crucial given the rising divorce rates in this day and age. As I see it, many marriages last long, resist temptations, and survive turbulence and uncertainty only because the two potential partners worked at it from that moment when they set eyes on each other and when one or the other uttered those two words, I do. Successful marriages are often the product of healthy premarital decisions and a willingness to work on the relationship before the one or the other says the magic words, I do. Many experts on marriage and many who have spent ages living the marital experience tell us that an enduring marriage lasts because the soil was well prepared, because the plant was well tended and well watered and well provided for. So when Africa Online Media Corporation announced it was revisiting this topic after several previous discussions, marriage before you say I do, I, unlike in those previous occasions, did a personal reflection coming to you today in poetic form. Everything happens for a reason, and nothing happens by chance. Before you cultivate a garden, you plant. Before you build a house, you plant. In fact, we hardly do anything out of intuition. So is marriage. We do not wake up to it. We do not walk into it. There is no happenstance. We meet a man or a woman. Something about him or her strikes us, rings a bell. You go home. Your mind doesn't let go that person. Your itch, or is it your desire to see him again and again, to see him or her again and again, is more than you really think. That first sight, that first encounter, gnaws at our brain and constantly takes us through sleepless nights. That first encounter kindles something in one, in you or in him, in I or in you, a flame, an urge. Before you know it, a relationship has developed. You begin to see each other more often than you are wont to admit. That interest grows the more you see each other. And one day, one unsuspecting moment, the question is popped. Do you want to marry me? What came up your mind when that question was popped? Did you think over it before saying anything, before replying? At the altar or at the mayor's office downtown, had you done your homework, slept over it, asked a second opinion, and talked to your best and closest friend about it? Therefore, whatever goes through your mind, however crazy you felt about him or her, before you say, I do, be sure he or she is the right one, whoever that may be, whatever we can find, or however we can define that person, is there the best, the right person. Remember that you are saying, I do, for better or for worse, in fatness or in slimness, in health or in sickness, for good times and for bad times, with children or without children, in wealth or in poverty, until that final moment, for one or the other, when death, forgive the term, do you part. It is now our moment to matter-of-factly tell prospective partners whether the partnership we're about to build is going to be a long-lasting one, because after you say, I do, I personally think there is no taking back those words. So let us open the discussion. Before you say, I do, what ran through your mind? Reverend Palm, I'll toss the ball first at Houston, because I know that recently, this past summer, there were a lot of I do and tying of the knot in that part of these United States of America. Over to you.
Thank you, Anias, and good afternoon. And again, out of town, so I've not fixed the connectivity issues at home. I want to thank the beautiful, anointed sister Sylvia for joining our platform. And as a media personality, she's an African woman who's on fire, and she's the right person for this topic and all future topics. So, Sister Sylvia, on behalf of Africa Online Media Corporation and our Chief Executive Editor, Mr. Sonlefan Kemleke, someone I consider a journalistic icon, I want to thank you especially for joining us. And the airways, I'm going to consider the airways to you. I'll just listen because I want to receive.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. To both of you, you are doing an awesome job by sharing so much invaluable information with the world at large. A lot of these topics are shied away by a lot of people because too many people think that when you talk about marriage, there's a lot of taboo, especially when it comes from most of these African cultures. So our esteemed colleague asked, what goes through your mind before you say I do? I
Indeed.
did say once upon a time. I was
yes,
a young,
go ahead. You were a young woman.
Very beautiful at the time. I'm telling you, I was hot.
You are still beautiful. You are still beautiful and hot.
Well, that time, okay, I was hot at that time. So, but anyway, I was young. I was vibrant. I was fresh, just out of college. And at the time, I used to run track. And the gentleman that married me was also my semi-coach, for running. I used to run the 80 meters hurdles and the 100-meter flat. So when I became a champion in the 80 meters hurdles, I became his favorite, and that's how we started dating. And thereafter, I said I do. Now, truth be told, when he proposed to me, I froze. Okay, I'm very talkative naturally, and I'm very active, and I'm not afraid or intimidated by anything. But believe me, this day I froze. I was wordless, speechless. I looked at him like I was a deer caught in headlights. I started shaking. I started feeling nauseous. I thought I was going to throw up. I had to sit down. Then he looks at me and he says, wait a minute, I just asked you a question. I said, yeah, I'll give you an answer tomorrow. You have a lot of mixed emotions when you get proposed to by a man, regardless of how many years or how many months or how many weeks you've dated this person. For sure, there was that anticipation that one day he would ask me, to get married to him. But when the question was popped, I wasn't ready. I wasn't prepared. I did say I do, I think in the evening of that same day. And we were best friends first before I even said I do to him. He became my trusted confidant. He became my go-to friend. He became my go-to man. He became my go-to everything that I needed to ask him. He was very free with me. So I found it very easy to start talking and asking questions about marriage. He was about 4 or 5 years older than I was. So I knew he had a little bit more experience than I did. So once I said I do, guess what? The rest was history.
Now tell me, when you said I do, what were you thinking? Did you think of the past or the future? Or were you just on the spur of the moment saying, I do, because you are right in front of me?
No, I said I do at the same moment. Like I said, I froze.
Yes, I know you froze.
Yes, I froze. And I think the mind also stopped working for momentary insanity, like they call it. It stopped thinking. I could see, but I could not reason to comprehend what he just asked. But after I got my bearings back together, the first thing I started thinking about is, Lord, I'm going to have children. Lord, I'm going to have to be in his house. Lord, I'm going to have to do this and that for him. I'm going to have to cook. I'm going to have to wash, and anxiety took over. But then something calmed me down. Something in my spirit told me it as well. This is him. And I comfortably said I do. Because now I saw the future for me was going to be Mrs. Somebody.
And what was it like going forward from there?
Oh my God. I was married to a man I might even deem as an almost perfect man. May God rest his sweet soul. The man that married me, we will call him David, just so that I can follow with what I'm saying. I'm not going to give out the last name. Those ones that know my last name know who I'm talking about. My late husband was a saint, so to speak. My late husband was a very quiet man, very, very compromising. He didn't ask for much. The biggest thing in my husband's life was, or rather should I say, the first priority in my husband's life was our children. When we had our children, everything about him was child this, child this, child that. Sometimes he even forgot I existed. But because I was a social butterfly myself, he learned to accept me for who I am and live my life the way I did without much of him interfering in my life. Truth be known, I led a very blissful, wonderful, wonderful, happy life. Because the man was always so compromising to make sure that I was happy. He made sure that I was provided for. He made sure that whatever I did, I had a smile at the end of the day. He was not an outgoing man per se. For him, it was track, maybe basketball, and sometimes, because he became a fan of the Redskins, he started working with the Redskins at one time, you know, on the field where he would help them, you know, get their water or stuff like that. So once he was in his sport avenue, he was happy and I was happy.
Now, what would you tell a young lady that came up to you to say, Auntie, I need your word because this guy has been eyeing me for some time and I suspect something may be on the way?
Well, for the young ladies of today, what I want to say actually, and I'm glad that I have this opportunity, is most of them actually, just FYI for the general public, a lot of times I matchmake people. I have had about 15, 20 young men who've come to me and say, Auntie, I'm looking for a wife, but I can't find a wife. Some ladies have also come to me, Auntie, I want a husband, but I can't find a husband. So I always ask them exactly what are you looking for? Now, when I look at my daughters, the girls, I'm not going to talk about the sons right now. Most of the work that I have to do is mainly with the ladies. The first thing the ladies will say, and I swear this is like they read the same book, or they were gone to the same school of want to be married. He needs to have a big house. He needs to have a big car. He needs to have a big job. He needs to have I need to travel. I need to do this and I need to do that and I need to do that. And he should have a degree. I say, okay, I think we can check a few of those, but what are you bringing to the table yourself? You cannot expect a man to have 70 items of your requirements and you have 0 of his requirements. A man is not looking for a liability. A man is looking for an asset. An asset is something that a man will treasure. An asset is something that a man will be proud of because he knows to say, this new being that has come into my life will improve me and make me a better person. When you bring a liability into your house, so to speak, a person who wants to be a gold digger, excuse my language, but let's call it this, call it what it is.
Sure.
You bring a gold digger who just wants to self-embellish or self-gain or self-gratify, it becomes a disaster. So what I do is I run a few tests with these girls. I'm not going to say what the tests are here because it's a service I provide, but anybody who's interested can get in touch with me, you, or Reverend Pam. I do actually coach these young ladies. I teach them and prepare them to be what we call, quote unquote, almost perfect wives by the time the men say, you know, will you marry me? Now, when the girls hear me speak, the first thing they do is, Auntie, you're being too hard on me. Isn't it our ancestors, the wife used to stay home and the man will do this? I say, yes, 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 yes. Even some places in Africa still do that. But when you live in a society like here in the United States or in the West, things are totally different. If your husband knows he gets $1 gazillion at the end of the month and he can take care of you and he asks you to stay home, by all means, why not? I would love to do that. But don't come with that notion or that idea that he has to take care of me. He doesn't have to do nothing. You as a woman should come equal to the task. You as a woman should come with your own stuff that you can show off and say, love, I've got my whatever BA, I've got my PhD, I've got my this, I've got my own this, and I have my own daughter or my own son, and I can also bring this to the table. Don't always go in there looking for handouts, because that's not fair. The marriage will not start off on the right thing. You're going to start fighting about money. You're going to start fighting about certain responsibilities. You're going to start fighting about things that shouldn't even be thought about. Because when you went into the marriage, you had a pre-notion of what you thought marriage was. I tell these ladies, you got to be realistic. You ask for things that are real, things that are tangible, and things that when you ask the man, can you provide? If he says yes, then well and good. But don't pressure the man to change himself for you, because it's not going to work. Don't pressure the man to do things that he does not normally want to do. Unless he himself compromises and says, okay, let me meet you halfway. Then by all means, let's push it.
Now, let us go this other route and see. It takes time to build that relationship. So when these young girls come to you, did they meet the man yesterday and they want to say, I do today? Or how long should the waiting period be? How long should we take to understudy that other person we want to be a significant one in our lives?
You know, I never used to believe in love at first sight. When people used to tell me love at first sight, I would bust out laughing so hard my stomach would hurt. Because I look at somebody and say, how can you love somebody you just met? You don't even know the background of this person, him or her background. But in this day and age, looking at my Christian life and my past life, they always tell me that our God is a God of suddenly. When God deems something right for you, you don't have to wait. I know of people who have met on Saturday and they're married next Friday. I know of people who have met on the 1st of January and they're married September 10th. I know of people who met in 1998 and they're still dating today, they're still engaged and they're still not married. I know of people who have been dating for 20 years. They come and get married before 6 months is even over, guess what? They separate. The timing of an individual it always depends on the feeling or the readiness of one's heart or one's feeling. I will use my daughter's words. My daughter says, Mommy, the heart wants what the heart wants. And when the heart wants something, no matter how much information, how much, how can we say, discouraging or how much encouraging we give, it's up to the individual, him or herself, to determine, yes, I am ready for this commitment. And yes, I am ready to dedicate and give myself to this man or give myself to this woman. If we put the same time frame on everybody's life, it's not going to be fair. It's not going to be true or realistic, because each individual feels differently about their life at that point in time. Even the way they feel towards the husband, sorry, not husband yet, fiance, the way they feel towards the fiance and fiancée at the time is totally different. It's all individualistic. So I say, I have 4 daughters, by the way. I have 4 beautiful daughters. 3 are married, and I still have one that is, she's in kind of a serious relationship. But if you ask me the time frames, my firstborn didn't even date for a full year. But they're so happily married, it's blissful, and I thank God that the Lord has given me men of God in my daughters' lives. My second daughter was almost the same. My third daughter is the one who dated, I think, for 2-3 years. They're all very happily married. Like I said, I thank God. So it's all individually done based upon how these two correlate or relate to one another, how they speak to one another. What's the commonalities between these two? What is binding me and this man, or what is going to bind me and this man to make this marriage fruitful, or to make this marriage work, or to make this marriage blossom?
Now,
it's like,
yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you go ahead.
Yes, it's like a lot of times you run a marathon, right? 4 of you are running the same marathon. You've been training the same training. Every single day, you're all out there 6 miles and hiking and biking and whatever else you do on the terrain. But when it comes to the actual day of running, guess what? All of you are not going to come in the same number. One's going to come in number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. You all came in at your own pace, right? Yes. But you've been training the same way, same day, probably eating the same food, sleeping in the same place, drinking the same water. But when it comes to the race now, you all come in at different times. Relationship is the same way. We all go into a relationship, yes, maybe at different times, different days, different stages. And at the end of this race, we all come in differently.
Yes, but how long should that wait period be? From the day you set your eyes on him or her to when you pop the question, will you marry me? And then from there on, how long should it be? How long should it take?
It shouldn't take you that long. If you're in love with somebody, when you say, okay, let me first just take a step back before I answer that question. There's a very thin line between infatuation, sexually attracted to, and being in love with somebody or loving somebody. There's a great difference between those three. When you're infatuated by somebody, you're looking at this person in a sort of a glow. Oh my God, I mean, I'm smitten and this, and I want this, and I want him so badly. And tomorrow you're married. Fine. You love somebody, but you're not in love with that person. I want this person to be in my life, but I will learn to love him. It can take a day, it can take a month, it can take a year. When you love somebody like that, I always suggest you take 1 year to know each other, so that you can understand each other's goods and bads, understand each other's wants and needs, understand each other's interests, so to speak, and even your tolerance. Are you able to be sexually monogamous just between you and that person? Are you able to tolerate his nuances? Is he able to tolerate your nuances? I say a year is plenty. But some of them, I'm telling you, will marry after 3 weeks. I know a couple that we married off not too long ago. 7 days, they called me and said, well, we need you as a witness. And 7 days, today is what 6, 7 years now, very happily married with 2 kids.
Now, the other question that you almost walked into without knowing is, why or where on this path should that 3-letter word come in? S-E-X, sex.
Ah, excellent. You know, I know a lot of people are going to kill me for this one.
Nobody will. I'll defend you.
I'm telling you, they're going to kill me for this one. You know, how do I put this? Somebody said to me, one of the gentlemen actually that had called me to see if I could hook them up with a young lady. And I told him, I said, you know what? I hope you're just not going into this thing just for sex. He says, Mama, how can you say that to me? How can I go and buy a car and I didn't test drive it? How do I know how it drives? Oh my God, I about died.
No test driving, please.
You know, I stood there dumbfounded, perplexed. I'm like, you didn't just say that to me. He says, yes, ma'am. How do you telling me, okay, I go there to, I think it was Mercedes-Benz he used. He says, I go to Mercedes, Mom, there's a 350, there's an ML this, there's an SLK this, there's an SK that. How do I know which one I want? Because all you ladies here are like Mercedes-Benzes to me. If I don't test drive, Mama, how do I know that this is the right fit? This is the one that I'm going to enjoy, driving. He had a point. So this also now, as a cultural and tradition custodian where I come from, I had to backpedal a little bit and, take a seat and say, this young man is speaking the truth. In today and age, yes, a lot of these young people are very sexually active. And for sure, I've known quite a few relationships that broke up because the husband will come and say, oh, she's too wide down there, I can't even feel myself. She'll come and she'll say, oh, he's too small down there and I can't even feel him. Hey, I gotta say it like it is. I'm sorry, this is media.
I understand. That's right.
I'm gonna take it all the way. In my language, they call me Wanachimbusa. Wanachimbusa means a woman with wisdom who will teach you the rights and wrongs about the 3-letter word and even about marriage. And this is what I do. So I'm not shy about what I say, what I do, or how I say it. So sex for me, even my own children ask me that question. All I'm going to say is it's individual. Some people have had sex on the first day they've met. Other people have waited for a year. Other people have waited for 2 years. Other people have waited until they got married. Now, the good thing about either scenario that I have given you, these scenarios that I use is because it's something that I have seen and something that I have dealt with. They all are still happily married. So I guess it all depends on the individual. Now, as African women, and let me use that word loosely, African women, I'm not sure about our other brothers, sisters in other cultures, but as African women, we were always taught that if you say yes to a man the first day, then you're loose, you're a whore, you're a prostitute, you're considered that. There's no respect for you. But the young men of today are saying, Mama, I want to test drive today so that I know whether I should ride the same car tomorrow. You understand? So it's quite difficult for me to really, how can I say, pinpoint and say 2 days, 1 day, 1 hour. Some people meet today and she'll say, no, he's too small. You meet her and he'll say, no, she's too big, so I can't have her. And they go about their separate ways. The other one will come and say, hey, Mama, that one is sweeter than honey. Oh, that's juicy. That is exactly what I'm looking for. Then the other girl will come and say, Mama, that one took me to heaven and back, and I told God I don't want to die. And I came back to earth. That's the man for me. So this one here is very relative. It all depends on the individuals, how they feel about their bodies, the comfortability of themselves, and how they are sexually oriented. How open has their sex life been? How open has their teaching towards sex been? The parents that raise these people, or the peers that they interact with, or even their churches, that their pastors, what do they know about sex and how do they understand sex? This also, like I say, is individual. Each person will test drive according to his needs and make the choice according to how the test drive went.
Individual as it may be,
yes,
is test driving not leading up to, as you said, giving up probably on that person who would have been the best partner for you going on?
That is so true. I can say yes or no to that. It wouldn't be giving up because in a marriage, as you know, my brother, when you get married, it's for life. When I marry all these young children off, I always make fun and I put my hands together like, you know, like I'm in jail, and I'll say, you are on lockdown. I cross my hands like that. I say, that's it, you're done. There's no more going out of that. I mean, it's a pretty jail, but I always make fun of it, because after I've taught them what I have taught them, and they ask me questions and we learn what we have to learn together for them to understand their new role as a wife, their new role as somebody's, going to be somebody's mother, or their role is going to be somebody's second in command, so to speak, in the house. So when I look at all these, how can I say it, the young ladies, when they come in, you don't give up on the partner. What you do is you enhance yourself, because, okay, for example, I had an incident in Atlanta where I had married this couple together. The husband was from here and the wife was from overseas. I can't remember. I'm not going to reveal the country because that's private. But anyway, she was from overseas. And when she came here to the United States, he brought her, got married, and all that stuff. They had never had sex. You understand? They had been talking for an entire year on video. She came here twice and they never had sex. It was exactly like how you and I right now, video. And she told me, I'm not going to have sex with you until we get married.
Yes.
So, you know, that put pressure on the guy. 9 months later or a year later, he proposed to her. She came, and the last visit, I think, he proposed to her. And then, of course, she didn't go back. And she still told him, you're not going to touch me until we get married.
Yes.
For sure, we went and we did the wedding and everything went well. I left, they went for their honeymoon, and I came back. Following morning, 6 a.m., the groom calls me. And he says, you gave me a woman who has a hula hoop for you know what. He says, I can even fit my head in there. You understand? I said, what in God's name do you mean? He says, no, I'm saying what I'm saying. I'm not mixing my words, auntie.
Yes.
This woman is too wide and I can't feel myself. I can't feel her. I swear my heart dropped. I literally dropped. I went to my knees and I dropped. I said, okay, when are you coming back? He says, we're coming back tomorrow. I said, why don't you just finish the honeymoon 7 days? He says, no, I'm coming back. I'm bringing her back. He flew me from here back to Atlanta after 2 days. And I had to go and take care of the problem. I know how to take care of those things. We did what we had to do. And guess what? By the time 30 days was over, the woman was restored to her grace, and the man was very happy. He even blessed me with something small and said, thank you for restoring her virtue as well as, you know, his sanity. So,
yes. Hold it on there. I think there's some other person wanting to participate. I don't know the name. I don't see the name. But please, if you just joined us, this is Africa Online. And we are discussing before a marriage, before you say, I do. Please, if you just joined us, tell us who you are and continue the conversation. Please, thank you for coming in. Anybody out there to come in? Apparently the person just came in to listen. But that being said, tell me, again, we have our traditions, we have our cultures, we have our belief systems. We come from different places. No doubt you've been able to get people from different backgrounds to come together, live together. But then, before you say I do, as I mentioned in the reflection, tribe, religion, and those considerations, should they be on your mind before you say I do? Should you think about it, or should you give yourself time to tell the guy, I will get back to you? Or the guy, the girl, yes.
You should actually, yes, these are the things that actually can make or break a marriage. And like I say, everything that I share with you on this video is something that I have experienced myself and something I've gone through with my people that I have married off and still about to marry off. Religion is playing a very, very pivotal point in a lot of people's lives. It's breaking marriages. Without any disrespect intended to the Christians or the Muslims, please bear with me, but I have to use this example. We have I call them my nieces and nephews, or I call them sons and daughters. So either way, I use them loosely depending on the relationship that I have with these kids. But anyway, there's a young lady that we married off, I think about 5 years ago. She's Christian, fully Christian. And the gentleman that proposed to her was Muslim. The first thing I asked her when she brought him to me is, have you studied the Muslim? Oh, no, it's okay, auntie. He says on Friday, he's going to go to the mosque, and Sundays, me and I can go to church. He'll drop me off at church. I said, okay. For you too, it's fine. But have you considered the fact that you may have children? Oh, yeah, no, we're going to have children. Yes, I said, so where do the children belong? To the Muslims or to the Christians? Oh, we've talked about that, and that's not a problem. He said on Sundays they can go with me, and then Friday they go to the mosque. I said,
You cannot.
That's not as
both.
That's not as easy as it sounds.
Yes.
A man will tell you what you want to hear, my dear daughter. So bring this man to me. Bring him with whoever people he has to come to, and I'll get some men with me so that we come and talk about this. She said, no, if you do that, he may change his mind about marrying me. I said, then he doesn't love you. Because children are the glue sometimes that holds a marriage together. Not all the time, but sometimes. Because when you think of leaving, or when you think of doing something that's drastic, the first thing that you think about is my children. What will happen to my children? What will happen? And especially as mothers. I don't know if the fathers think like that. There may be a few fathers too that think like that. But normally, naturally, instinctively as animals, as mammals, we think about the kid or the kids. So when you're looking at the religious part of this, it's a very, 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 very sensitive issue where both families, not only the bride and groom, but the actual exact immediate family, mother, father, brother, sister, or grandparents have to be brought in. Because each side has to be cognizant and understanding that there's a requirement from the Muslim, and like I said, I'm using that as an example, and there's a requirement from the Christian. Now, my second point to her was, okay, you're saying you don't want to become a Muslim, and he's saying he doesn't want to become a Christian. She says, oh, absolutely not. I can't become a Muslim and blah, blah, blah. I said, okay. If you marry this man in the mosque, in the Christian way, you're not married.
That's right.
Then if he marries you in the Christian church, then in his Muslim way, he's not married. She says, how can you say that? We're going to stand before God. I said, exactly. Which God are you standing before?
Yes.
Which God are you talking about? So she looked at me, she started crying. Auntie, you just don't want me to get married? I said, no. You come to me with these pertinent issues, and I need to make you understand that it's not going to be as easy as gravy like that. There's certain underlying factors that you have to understand. When you bring these children into the world, or when you bring this man into your family, I'm going to say our family, there's going to be issues that you need to be cognizant of, that you need to be aware of. Now, the children were born, they got married, okay? Beautiful wedding, they got married. Well, guess what happened now? The Christian side is not allowed to have the children on Sundays. They go to the mosque every Friday. And they wear the gowns, those beautiful, whatever, how you call it, habayas, the ones that, they cover themselves.
Okay.
Now, she left the marriage, okay? And I told her to go back. I said, this is exactly what I was talking about. You are going back, and you're not coming back to the family. Because when I asked you, you said I was trying to stop you from getting married. You've married a man that you love, and he loves you. This is what we were talking about. So these young people of today need to sit down. 1, talk about the prospect of having children. 2, the religion in their families. 3, the cultures, if you're from 2 different hemispheres or 2 different parts of the world where none interlocks or interacts with the other. 3, family. 4, friends. When you come into a relationship, you come with your own friends. When he comes in. Then you're going to be hiding your friends. You're going to meet them in the corner and do what you have to do and come back and act all, yeah, I'm a sweet wife. But you were drinking, you were smoking, you were doing whatever nonsense you were not supposed to be doing. That's a no-no. You have to be open with one another. These are things that you have to talk about before you say I do. Because once you bring them into the marriage, before you speak about them, guess what? You're going to be fighting every day. You said, she said, I said, they all said. There's always three sides to a story: your side, his side, and the truth. So if you don't want to have three sides to a story, these are pertinent things that one always has to bring up first. Let's talk about it. How can we work together? I want my Christian side of the family. You want your Muslim side of the family. Let's meet halfway. Don't go into a marriage because you want the woman so badly. Then you lie about saying, yes, we're going to worship on Sundays. And when the marriage takes place, you say, I can't do that. And you can't command of me the children of mine according to the Muslim way, or the children of mine according to the Christian way, and all that nonsense. See, it brings rife between you two. Instead of you loving each other and enjoying one another's company, all you're doing now is trying to sort out problems that should have been taken care of before you got into this relationship.
And that brings us to the point we started off with, the duration of what do you call it, courtship. Should courtship be 1 day? Should courtship be 3 months? Should courtship be a year? Because parents in the interim have to talk to you when you go home and tell them, this guy is proposing to me. And that is why personally, I don't believe that you should say, I do. Immediately the question pops up. Go home, discuss with your parents, discuss with your peers, reflect about it, and find the commonalities between you and the differences, and see how to iron those out before that question should be answered. So I still go back to it. How soon should courtship, how long should courtship be before you say I do?
I think a minimum of 1 year. A minimum, and I say a minimum of 1 year because, like you rightly said, the catchwords or the buzzwords that you used are you as a woman have to inform your parents. You as a man also have to inform your parents. And together you have to collectively bring the two families together. So if you do it in 3 weeks, 3 months, okay, a ticket to Africa is how much? Almost $1,500, right? That's a return. Right. Now there's two of you, so that's $3,000. Do we have $3,000 sitting in the bank account right now if we have to leave?
Maybe not.
Okay, now besides that $3,000, you still need spending money. The parents back home are expecting you to bring goodies, to bring blah, 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 and all that stuff. Do you have the $5,000 sitting in the account? Probably not.
Not.
So at least realistically, when you look at how you call it, the duration that I would recommend as a mother, and I'm speaking now from a mother who's given birth, I would say 1 year, because that also gives the mom, the dad, or the rest of the family members to know each other on each side, as well as the bride and groom as well, to know either side of the family, at least in their own time or at their own time. That way, nobody comes and says, well, you didn't tell me. Well, I didn't know. Or, well, I didn't this, you understand? Because you had ample time. You had ample time to do your own study. You had ample time to do your own asking of questions. So,
now, go ahead, please. Yes.
1 year would be the minimum for courtship, just so that nobody's pointing fingers at the other one because I did not know. You can't say you did not know when you've had a year. A year is enough time.
Sometimes that year, as it goes along, peer pressure builds up. And some of the men or women getting into these relationships listen more to their peers than to their hearts. So where should this fit into the whole conversation? Where should peer pressure fit in this discourse?
Look, I would answer this in that way. Peer pressure. I would say to the young man and young woman to say, those friends of yours that are advising you, are they the ones who are going to be in that house with that man or that woman? Are they the ones going to be in that same bed with that man or with that woman? Are they the ones who are going to be sitting on that couch with that man or with that woman? If you are looking for a life, an individual should not influence you. You should not be that easily deterred or easily influenced, because you found that partner by yourself. The peers were not there before. So if you are succumbing to to the peer pressure, then you're not ready for marriage. You might as well just forget it, because the minute you get into that marriage again, you're going to be soliciting their advice all the time, and which most of the time is wrong. And most of the time, these are the people who are single or who have even divorced, because now they feel, oh, if she goes into that marriage, we can no longer hang with her. Or if she goes into that marriage, it's going to be all over her. If she goes into this marriage, we can't drink with her. We can't party with her and all that stuff. So if you're going to succumb to peer pressure, then my dear daughter or my dear son, you're not ready for marriage.
So would you recommend well, you have one more daughter hanging out there. She's not hanging out. She's seriously considering it. I personally, for full disclosure, have 5 boys. The boys,
nice.
So I have 5 grandchildren out of the 5 boys already. So that said, before I say I do, some boys and girls got engaged or got involved right from secondary school. They were classmates or they were schoolmates, and they got involved in this thing we call marriage. Should it be a problem for parents to come in and say, oh no, you were too young, you did not know what you were doing? Should parents interfere here?
I don't think so. You know, our children of today are smarter than most of us when we were growing up in the 50s, when we were born in the 50s and 60s, and I believe, let me go up to the 70s. The millennials of today are sharper and smarter than we were, how we were when we were growing up. When they have made a decision, okay, some of them for sure, like I said earlier on, the decisions are made because of the sexual drive or the sexual thrill or the sexual how can I say, enjoyment that they're going through. So they think they're ready for marriage. There's nothing wrong with you advising, but you cannot make them do anything that they don't want to do. Because you know, as children, we become very rebellious. When a parent is telling you not to do something, I was like that. Mommy says no, I said, because she said, no, let me piss her off and I'll do what she says I shouldn't do. But when she gave me the go ahead, then it sort of deflated my time. Now, there's nothing for me to fight for. There's no adrenaline running here. So, okay, fine. So parents do have the right, the legal right, to make sure that they direct their children in the right means and right way that they should. However, you cannot demand that a child dump that man or that woman, because once they rebel against that, how you call it, threat or decision that you've made for them, guess what? We lose the children. This is when they stop listening to us. This is when now they start going to that man or to that woman and they start cutting you off. No matter what information you want to get out of them, so just say, I'm fine. Oh, I'm fine. Oh, I'm fine. And then where does that leave you as a parent? You start stressing because you have brought that upon these children to tell them, I don't want you to get married. You're 18, you're 21. Okay, 21 is the threshold. If an 18-year-old came to me right now and told me I want to get married, I'll tell her, no, wait until you're 21. Then 21, we can talk. Because as you know, women mature much quicker than men, especially in Africa. I'm not sure if it's the same everywhere in the world, but I know that our African women or African female children mature much, much quicker than the men, than the boys, meaning when it comes to the life, you know, the sexual life and whatever else that, you know, you have to do in life. Even though the men start having sex young, but now I'm being told kids are sexual at 10 years old in the US. They're sexual at 10 years old in the US. So if a child starts having sex at 10 years old and she comes to you at 15 and says she wants to get married, do you think that she'll listen to you even if you tell her no? She has tasted the fruit. She has tasted the lollipop. So when they come to you and they say they're ready for marriage, trust me, it's a tug of war. This is something we were discussing a few days ago with my sister. What are we going to do? These kids are already 7 years old. I have 6 grandchildren as well. 4 boys and 2 girls. 1 is on the way. What are we going to do? These girls are going to turn 7. And already they're talking about sex. We heard them talking about sex in the living room the other day. So how young is too young to get married? How young is too young to get married?
That's a question. Yes. So we live in an age decades different than our time, than your time, than my time. Social media has become the toy that influences, the toy that they play with, the toy that has become the father, the mother to almost every child. So as somebody involved in the lives of young people seeking partners, what should be the role of social media in the discussion leading up to I say I do?
Social media, very good point. You know, social media can make or break a relationship, and social media can make or break an individual, a person as an individual. You know, on these social medias, when we post things, especially these young girls or young boys that are married or quote unquote claim they're happily married, they're posting things that are like fairy tales, okay? So if I'm not a married woman and I see this girl posting with her husband, they're all lovey-dovey, they went on a cruise, or they wore the same matching hair, they wore the same matching shirts, they went on a cruise, they look this, guess what? I start to be envious. I start to be envious and I want to live that life. Social media comes into play in a positive way if the information that is being shared on social media is true to its kind and true to its being. But when it's there to embellish people's lives, it is destroying a lot of homes, it's destroying a lot of people's lives. A lot of women are posting themselves out there. One of my media guys was telling me, sis, you won't believe how these women can clean up their pictures. When you see them in natural life, they're pretty, but they got all these blemishes on the face and the 3, 4, 5 tone colors on their faces. But once they start polishing on that media thing, they look as smooth as a baby's behind. But when they go wash their faces, guess what? There's something totally different. I read a Chinese story where he married this woman. Honeymoon time, the girl went into the bathroom. She took off her wig, took off her lashes, took off her nails, took off her, what you call it, what's the
lipstick?
Stuff? No, the teeth thing.
The artificial teeth. Yeah, okay, the teeth,
yes,
whatever, yeah.
Yes. The artificial teeth.
Yeah.
And she puts them in the bathroom. When the man comes to the bed, he thought he was in the wrong room. He ran out naked.
Oh, no.
Because he said he found the wrong woman in his bed. He doesn't know where his wife went to, and this one came in. But guess what? She was the woman he married. Because it's so artificial. They met on the internet. All he saw was what she was putting on the internet, the makeup, the whatever. And then now, no sex. No, they had never had sex as well. You know, them Chinese also are very strict about their culture and their customs. Not that I know much about them. But when they got married now, of course, that was the day to consummate. He sued the lady for misrepresenting himself. And guess what? He won the case. So social media also can build, like I said, and break you. If we are disseminating information that is building our children, that is building our families, that is building us as individuals, and that is teaching our children morals and the right things in life, absolutely. Social media is a beautiful thing. But then when we come to social media and we're embellishing the truth and we're showing what is not, and people are believing what they're seeing to be the truth, then it becomes a problem. A lot of marriages are broken where these men who like to have, these married men and married women who like to have extramarital affairs. You find that the girlfriend is out there and telling him, well, you said you were going to leave her and you were going to marry me. I've been waiting for you for a year. I'm sick and tired. Then she posts a picture of him and her and the guy in a compromising position. What do you think the wife will do when she sees that picture on social media, or the friends to the wife? What do?
You'll get mad.
Absolutely. And that breaks a marriage. Women too are doing the same thing. We're calling ourselves cougars. At 60 years old, I'm dating let me just throw it, a 35-year-old, a 32-year-old, a boy young enough to be my own son. Also him, he'll be threatening me. Well, you told me you're going to leave your old husband for me. You know, you said you're going to do this and that. And guess what? He takes a picture of me and him, puts it on social media. If I was a married woman, what would my husband say?
That's a question. Now, to continue this conversation on those lines with the social media thing, the Chinese guy you mentioned, where was he during courtship? He didn't meet the girl physically, because I believe that physical knowledge of people without the sex is important. You should be able to meet with the person in a public place during daytime and see that person. I've always told myself that know the girl or the woman 3 different times. In the morning when she gets up from bed.
I love it.
On Sunday when she goes to church and comes back. And if possible, when she goes to the farm and comes back. See her in 3 different attires, 3 different positions, 3 different times before you say, I do. I don't know what you think about that.
No, I agree. Absolutely. I mean, your analogy is absolutely splendid. I'm going to copy you too now. I'm going to run with it. According to the Chinese guy, what he said is he had met her, I think he said 3 times, you know, like for coffee. I think they met, he said, for breakfast coffee. And then he met her for lunch. And then he met her when I think she brought the parents, the mom. I think there was only one parent, the mother. I don't remember the dad being there, the mother. And it's like in a controlled setting, so to speak.
I wouldn't go for those control settings. I want to see you as natural as you were created.
Yes, in your natural habitat. Yes, you're
Yes.
right. But he didn't. So, you know, this is why we're saying the physical contact as Africans has always been there. I remember in our time when we were dating, you'd go underneath the tree, right? He'll ask you for a date and you go underneath the tree.
Yes.
Just because he gives you a peck on the cheek, you feel you're in love. You're very happy about it. You're running home to tell your friends, you know, he kissed me.
Yes. That is not the way to go.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Oh, no.
Yes. Now, we're coming up to 4 o'clock. At 4 o'clock, we'll be announcing the topic for next week. Reverend Pam may be joining us. If not, we'll just continue the conversation. But we are talking to Sylvia Litana Robertson. Tell us about this other aspect of, before I say I do, I know you hinted on it, you touched on it before, this thing of online dating. Is that an advisable thing to do in this day and age?
Yes and no. Yes, it's an advisable to think. It's an advisable thing to do because look at the way we work here. We work like donkeys. We work like horses. Some of us have 3, 4, 5 jobs. Some of us don't even know what our beds look like. Some of us don't even know what our houses look like anymore. We go to work in the morning from 6 to, let's say 6 to 12. Then you leave from 12 to 4. Then you leave from 4 to 8, and then from 7 to 11. What time do you get to sleep in your bed? What time do you get to look for a man? What time do you get to look to find a girlfriend? You go online. Again, there's a danger to meeting somebody online. You meet pedophiles online because online they don't screen them for you to see if they're murderers, if they're rapists, if they're what. They're just men looking for women or women looking for men. One just has to be careful to do your own background check, your own due diligence if you're going to meet somebody online. Because what happens is a lot of times when we're online, we get so excited. Now, you know, just like you and me can see each other right now, right? Yes. They do all the streamlining and they do all those sexy videos and they have sex on the videos, and there's nothing wrong with that. But my question to you is that sex going to be the same when you meet that man or that woman in person? Because on this artificial whatever we do on online, it does exude feelings. And of course, it does give you that excitement, the adrenaline rush, and you want so badly for this man to touch you, for this woman to touch you. No, it may not be a good thing too. Because if online you meet the wrong person, you go and meet with this person, you will find that this person is not the right one for you. So once you realize that this man is not for you, guess what? You start getting upset and you start getting frustrated with the system because you were hoping and dreaming that you're going to find the Mr. Right or the Miss Right. So depending on how you look at it, yes, it's good for those who don't have time to go in the bars or before we used to say the churches were the best places to go and look for wives and women. But these days I have my reservations on that too. There are too many fake ones of us that go to that church pretending to be holier than thou. And once they marry us or they get us out of that realm and we become a wife or a husband, guess what? We become tyrants in our own homes. We start to be so wicked to the man or to the woman that has married us. We're totally different from what we were when he or she met us in the church. But yet when we go to church, we're holier than thou. We want to show the pastor, oh, I'm a woman of God, or I'm a man of God.
Yes, thank you for that. Dr. Ogoji is on, but we are at the top of the hour. So just hold that thought. And I was going to go on the part or the role the church has to play in making some of these relationships. Dr. Ogoji, hold on. Let us just say that the conversation will continue next Sunday with After You Say I Do. Now, you planted the seed. The garden is beginning to bloom, or rather, yeah, bloomed really. What should we do next? So after you say I do, what next? So that it will be the topic for next Sunday. For now, let us bring in Dr. Ogoji. So just stay on Sylvia and let Dr. Ogoji have a word. Dr. Ogoji, good afternoon.
Afternoon, how are you?
Fine, thanks. Always good to see you.
Good afternoon, Dr. Ogoji.
How are you?
I'm good. Good to see you.
Good to see you, yes. Well, this is a very interesting topic and a controversial topic. Marriage, or I do, is a very, very important part of life.
Yes.
We all need it. We all need to experience it at least once, and hopefully once and for all. But the sad truth is that if you get married in this part of the world, the chances that for every 10 marriages that take place today, in the next 5 years, only 4 is still married. That's a sad reality. Back home is different. Again, divorce is common in Africa now, but not as common as here. Just because of, I don't know why, but I think the difference there is that women are more, the cultural norms back home make people want to stay married longer than necessary. On the other part, this part of the world, independence is a very, very good thing. It's good for people to be independent in their life. But independence, when there's 2 captains in the ship, there's always a problem. I would say that even though we are all immigrants here, among the white couples, the Oyibo man, when you say successful marriage, somebody is always giving in. Be the man, be the woman, somebody is always giving in at one time or another. Of course, there should be a time where the things get out of control. People stamp their feet. It must be this way. Somebody has to give in. So it now depends on what is in contest. What are they contesting? Is it child rearing? Is it money? Is it sex? Is it work? Is it homemaking? There are various things. So the way things were planned traditionally, even before for both African and white people, is that the home belongs to the woman. The woman makes the home. And the man go out there and bring finances to run the house. Things have changed. In America, most family is combined income.
Yes.
Back home still, majority of families are single man income. Very few are combined. Most women back home still work, but they do petty trading for their own, take care of their own immediate needs, but the man still runs the house back home. So putting those together depends on where you live. In this part of the world, since the consider for I do is one. First and foremost, is this person pretty? Is she good looking? Is that what you want? That's always important because sometimes your wife might be make you so annoyed, make you so angry. Look at her face and you smile. It's okay. You know, your face there. I just use that face to cover it. So you must be attracted. That's one. It's very, very important. Number 2, which what are common? What do you guys have in common? Religion, things that you like. What can you do together? Those things that you guys have compacted. There should be something that the couple should go and do together when they are bored. That's number 2. And number 3, which is the almighty, if you live in the part of the world, money, money, money. I'm not saying it's the ultimate thing, but as I said in the chat room, if I've seen so many African brothers who have been married before and the marriage failed, if they are lucky to pick up and stand up again, because when after a failed marriage, if an average income person making $50,000 a year, and your wife is a housewife, and she get divorced from you, and take the house, and take the kids, and collect alimony, and make you and every other weekend father, you can never stand up again. You will work the rest of your life to take care of this woman. So, no young man, an average income person should consider to marry a housewife. The woman should be a housewife for the first, until all the kids are 5. Until all the kids are 5 and above. After 5, they should go to work.
Okay, Dr. Ogoje.
Okay.
Yeah, Dr. Ogoje, I think there you are going into our topic next week after you say I do. But before you say I do, you were in Nigeria, you were in Cameroon, and now you got to say I do, or you said, you popped up that question to somebody, and that person said I do. Now, what did it take you to get to that point of saying I do? How long did you spend together before you said, would you marry me?
Okay. This is okay. For me, for my wife, I knew her for about 6 months to a year. It didn't take that long. Before I said I do, I said, will you marry me? Of course. She said yes, and then I'm now in there, and then I'm there now. enjoying the good part of it and crying the bad part of it. You know? Yeah, I would say it's not
Yes.
all rosy.
Don't let her hear you say that. Don't let her hear you
No,
say
it's
that.
not all
That's
rosy.
right.
No,
That's
tell
right.
me that yours is rosy, you're a liar.
Okay. Sylvia, we're going to go to the second part of this discussion, which I said we'll start off with the role of the church or the churches. I know you mentioned the Muslim Christian one in the discussion, but what should be the role of the church in helping people say, yes, I do, or before they say, I do, before they say, I do? What should the role of the church be? Should the pastor interfere, or should you even go to the pastor, or where should you seek guidance?
Yes, absolutely. The churches or the mosques or whatever religious houses that are out there should have a very big part before a couple gets married. Because counseling should always begin with your pastor. The pastor knows your spirit, you know the pastor. And they are the best people that would teach you the ways of your book, let's say the Bible, or the ways of the Quran, or whatever religious book that each person that's getting married uses. As individuals, especially as Africans, we go by our culture. And some of our culture, remember, are still attached to those gods, the fetish gods that we were worshiping, I don't know, Ogdudus and how many years ago. When we go to the church today, most of us have, I believe, given up that role of worshiping those quote unquote false gods or fake gods. So when the pastors come in, we are believing that they're teaching us the true religion or the true things that are expected of us as Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, or whatever you want to call your religion, following the book as it demands, or the book as it teaches, or the book as it guides us to be husband and wife, or man and woman. The counseling begins from there because we believe that those are the authority on this word. They know the Bible, they know the word, they know how to interpret for us, and they know how to teach us that which we need to know as a Bible-based family, or a Muslim-based family, or Quran-based family, or whatever it is. The church is a very, very big part, an intricate part of this. Now, unfortunately, as much as I have said what I have said is all positive, unfortunately, some of our pastors too are not doing their jobs like they should be doing their jobs. Okay? They are using their members in a way that should not be so. You cannot come and tell me, I'm going to use myself as an example. Oh yeah, hey, I was prophesying yesterday, and the Lord told me this to say, for you to marry Joe tomorrow, the Lord is saying you have to put $2,000 or $5,000 in an envelope, and you have to bless me, or you have to bless the church. If you don't do that, the Lord is saying this and that and the other. You understand? They are using intimidation tactics to get money or funding out of people, and that's not right, and that's not fair. If you're a true man of God, you're a true man of God. I don't see where the Bible asks us to do that. If you are tithing, or if you're giving offering, the Lord himself, the Spirit guides you as a person to say, give the man of God this and that, so that he can plead on your behalf, or he can do this. The Lord speaks to all of us. So each of us has to be very careful as we go towards our pastors, or as we seek our pastors' guidances. The Bible tells you to test the spirit. They will teach us the goods about marriage. Nobody teaches you the bad about marriage, like our doctor said a few minutes ago. If anybody tells you a marriage is all rosy from the get-go to the end, that's a lie. Even me, when I teach these young men and women, I don't teach them the bads about marriage. They come back to me after they're married. Until you didn't tell me this, until you didn't tell me that, you know?
That's right.
They do come back and I always have an answer. Thank God God gave me a mouth. I always have an answer for them why I didn't tell them. And now I teach them what they come back at me with. Then I teach them now, okay, this is how you solve this problem. So for sure, the church, if it's a true church of Christ, the true church of God, let me say God, they do have a very big responsibility to teach and guide our youngsters into marriage. Even us older ones that are above 50, 60, we still get remarried, right?
Sure.
If you go to the pastor, you go to the pastor, but the pastor should be correct. He should be a true godly pastor, and not these fake pastors who just want to get something out of you. That's my take on that one.
So, Dr. Ogoji, what should be the role of the churches in preparing young people who want to say, I do?
Well, to be honest with you, the church has a very important role, as has been said previously. The church if the genuine church should counsel people about the good part, the bad part of marriage. But I will say this, we are Africans, okay? Our original religion is our cultural religion. Then the Christianity came and then brought up Christianity to us. So the rule of the church, if you go to the right church, the pastor should be able to tell you everything from the religious part and integrate it with your custom. You know, 20 years ago, the church was set in Latin Africa countries. That was sad. Today, the Pope has said, if you go to a village, you use the local dialect to say the Holy Mass. I'm talking about Catholic Church now. Latin is not allowed. You must integrate that custom of those people to the church. The church did not come to do away with the custom. It came to correct part of the custom that are not godly and integrate the good part of the custom to the church. So, what am I saying? The rule of the church there is that they should be able to look at you from the Christian standpoint and from the cultural standpoint. And then they have to prepare you with counseling. I will tell you that in this part of the world, if you go to do a church wedding now, and there's this very popular Bible passage where they say, man, love your wife as God loved the church. Woman, submit to your wife as woman submit to your wife, be submissive. If you take that reading for the wedding in church, some of the white women will stand up and go. Because for them, I've seen it happen.
Yes,
but it's part of the Bible.
It's true.
So they stand up and go and say, no, we don't want that part of reading. So I don't want to go into that detail, but the church says, a man love your wife as Christ loved the church.
Yes.
If you love the wife as Christ loved the church, you should treat her right. You should be ready to die for your wife as the church Christ died for the church.
Yes.
At that time, woman submits to your husband doesn't mean that she's a slave. It just means that he makes you the head, then you carry the head, and then you walk. And then practically you guys are partner. But people interpret that part of the Bible literally, they don't want that reading, they walk out of the church. So what am I saying? That our women not come here and then they follow what's going on. So custom and church, I don't want to digress, okay? It's very important because we in this part of the world, the white man's house know the way they run their house. A good example, Hillary Clinton, the husband cheated on her. She didn't run away from the marriage. She stayed there and they are still married till tomorrow. I'm not saying it's right, but they are still married till tomorrow. But an African man and a woman in that position, they will destroy themselves down. We don't know how to custom and church place because we don't know how to be separated and live in peace. But in this part of the world, a white man with his ex-wife and his new wife and new wife boyfriend will have dinner together. So custom must play in church. So that's what I'm trying to say, custom and church.
Excellent.
Okay, Dr. Ogoji, one question we handled before you came in was, what would you personally, I think we didn't discuss it directly, but Sylvia mentioned it, what would you do, say for your daughter or for your son who come up tomorrow and tell you that I'm getting married to Banana B or Apple A? She didn't consult you. What would be your role before she's ever uttered that I do to that person whom you don't know yet?
To be honest with you, if my son comes to me and says, hey, Daddy, I want to get married to so-and-so lady, how long have you known her? Which family is she from? I'll ask those questions. What's the family background? Did they have epilepsy in their family? Did they have psychosis in their family? If yes, run away. That's first thing.
Okay.
Now you're terrible.
That's the first thing.
Yeah.
Then number two, where did you meet her? Is she a Christian? Number three, is she educated? If yes, does she have a prospect of having a job? I will never encourage my wife to keep the wife at home 24/7 in this part of the world. If it's in Africa, you can keep her at home if she chooses to be and take care of her. There's nothing at risk because I mean, people don't kill me, but that's a fact. Can she be able to work and take care of the children if you're not there? That's one. Number two, would there be a point, because I mean, I'm very radical in this thought. I've seen so many people go down the road that if a man is comfortable and the wife is a housewife, when the argument is strong, the woman has no incentive to make things better. You kick me out and I keep your house, I keep your children, you pay me. Don't kill me. That's my perspective. So make sure your wife can do two things. Will not rely on you 24/7 because you may die tomorrow. She can take care of the children. Number two, make sure that as soon as the kids turn to school, she can go out and work. It's better for the family. If you have the money, go out and work, because you stay home and do Facebook, phone call, your life will be miserable. You go out and be engaged in work and come back home. The two of you can play a role in the household. So that's two things. So education, job pursuit, then finally, do you really love her? Love can grow. My father never met my mother until they brought her from Nigeria to Cameroon. They're still married today for over almost 50 years.
Excellent.
So basically, dating somebody for 4 or 5 years for marriage doesn't make a good marriage. It's important to know a person, but marriage is, are you willing to solve your differences? When my father said, is this way, my mother listened, my mother said this way, they all give and take. It's a give and take relationship. So that's my take. For my daughter, if my daughter is well educated, hopefully I get a good job. Don't marry a very poor somebody that come and pull you down. I'm sorry, you guys don't kill me.
I get you. We get you.
Don't kill me. Don't kill me. But again, is she a Christian? What kind of family? Do they have psychosis? I mean, psychosis, epilepsy is a no-no. Don't go there. And number three, how did you meet him? For how long have you known him? What has been going on? I want to know the detail. Then from there, if the guy is richer than her, go ahead, please, no problem.
Hey.
Okay.
Don't kill me out.
That's great. That's great. I saw Reverend Pam flash by. Oh, there she is. Reverend Pam, can you speak? Can you address some of these concerns? Well, happy to have you back. Yes.
No, I apologize. I'm going to listen to the recording. I was having technical difficulty. They're going to fix it, but Dr. Ogoti, you are a doctor. If your son brings an epileptic, you should be able to treat them.
Thank you. Thank you.
He may be a doctor, but he's not specialized in treating some of those illnesses. So, Sylvia, let us come back around to you. We've said so much about it. Before you say, I do. I know you've told your own story. You've told the story of how your daughters got into where they are. If somebody, I know you counsel people and so on, but we still are lacking something. Let's say somebody comes to you and says, Auntie, I met Mr. Joe. He owns 5 apartments, 5 houses. He has a fleet of cars. I want to get married to him. Would you tell that girl to say I do to that person just because that person has so much property?
No.
Why?
No.
Why?
You know, it has been my experience that a lot of these rich men are very abusive. That's number one. If this man that she has met, and let me borrow the doctor's words, the first thing that I want to know too, when any of these young girls are getting married, is this person a Christian? Because like I explained about the Muslim thing, it becomes an issue. If the answer is yes, does he go to church, or how strong is he in the church? You understand? Because when a man is God-fearing, usually the marriage is very sweet. Because like Dr. rightly said, the man is the head of the household. No matter which way we slice it, it doesn't matter. Whether you're making $200,000 a year and he's making $10,000 a year, he's still the head of the household. So if the daughter comes to me and says that this man is a millionaire and stuff like that, normally I ask them to bring the man to me. When I meet these men, I have a lot of questions I ask them, trust me, in front of the girl, or if they have friends that they come with, usually they'll come with a friend or two. Now ask a lot of questions. Thereafter, I ask for the full name, and I know how to do my own background check about these people. I always ask the girl, give me a month. After a month, I do my own FBI investigation. Whatever I find out, I'll let her know. like you rightly said before, social media is a very big tool. It's a very excellent weapon for me when I'm looking for dirt or looking for information on. If he's found to be clean, of course she has my blessing. Go ahead. When do you want the wedding? I'll be the one to even arrange the wedding for you. But if there's dirt behind him, I say present him with this and see what he says. So the decision truly thereafter now is hers. If he's clean, she goes with him. If he's dirty, she goes with him. I'll have done my part. My conscience is clear because, excuse me, I'll have known that I gave her both the right and the wrong of this man, and whatever decision she makes is hers. Now, lest she make the decision of going with him if he's a robber, if he's on the bad side, I always put a disclaimer. Don't come back to me with problems. I always exonerate myself from the get-go because I have told you how bad this person is. So if you choose to go with him, go ahead. You don't have my blessing, but go ahead with him. But don't come back to me with problems. And lo and behold, unfortunately for these kids, they always come back. That's
all right, all right. There is this other aspect that we did not touch. Come, we stay. I meet you. We're pulling on fine. I say, okay, why don't we live together? We're husband and wife. We call it that like that. Come, we stay. How good should we, or should we encourage it? Should we accept it as a way of life? By the way, is going to church to get married or going to the magistrate or to the mayor or whatever, is that the necessary way of sanctioning a marriage? Should we take away the word marriage if it's just come, we stay? Is it not marriage? Is it not living together? Is it not procreating?
I believe in the state of Maryland, we have what we call common law marriage. It doesn't matter which way you slice it. I don't know about the other states, the Texas and everywhere else, but I know that if you live with a woman in Maryland, I believe it's 6 months to 1 year. If you're living under the same roof in the same abode for, I think 6 months to 1 year, then you're husband and wife.
Okay.
The marriage that I sanction, or the marriage that my preference, or the ones that I encourage with these youngsters when they're getting married, if we can't afford a big, the big luxury white weddings like the Nigerians always throw, exaggerated weddings out there. Now you know how y'all do it. We need to go to the courthouse so that you get recognition from the families, the two families that are coming together, the husband's family and the girl's family. Because I know how mouthy we are as in-laws, sisters-in-laws to the new wife that were brought in the house. After all, you just brought yourself in my brother's house. This is my brother's house. You can leave anytime you want to leave. And we have the nerve to tie her clothes and throw them outside. When she's a legally wedded husband, she can always talk back and say, no, I'm a legally wedded wife. You go back also to your own husband's house. That she has a leg to stand on. So I usually don't encourage. I honestly do not encourage, even though it's done repeatedly and readily every single day. These young women and men come back with the same stuff. I always try to discourage, and then I always encourage. I even volunteer, let me take you to court, to the court, not court, but to the courthouse for you to get, registered and legally married. Earlier on, the doctor said that there are some people who have been living together for 7, 5, 10 years. 2 years later, they get married. Within that 1 year of getting married, 3 months, they're divorced. Why? They've been living together for all these 10, 15, 14 years. But now, because it has become legal, you have the marriage word instilled in you and it's legal, you divorce. I still haven't found the answer to that one. That's $1 million question even for me.
That's $1 million question for you. Dr. Ogoji, is it $1 million question for you too?
Yes, I agree. For me, come we stay is a white man thing. In Africa, if a woman goes to stay with a man without the family getting involved, they don't recognize that. But for you to, even in Nigeria now, for Igbo culture, if my brother gets a young lady pregnant and that baby is born, that baby belongs to that girl's family until my family go there and say, we want your daughter hand in marriage. Then we can claim the child.
That's good.
So in Igbo culture, friendship does not own kids. So I don't agree with that. But in this part of the world, when we throw our tradition, come we say again, I still believe that everybody should attempt to find a life partner, get married, and see how it goes. If you're unlucky to fall among the 70% of failed marriages, and you're lucky to pick up yourself, don't go that out again. You're going to find somebody, you're going to live together, and if things get bad, is different. But give it an attempt, do your best, find a life partner. But if it fails you, you successfully stand up for a man. You'll be stupid to go get married second time, get divorced second time, get married third time, get divorced third time. You end up a dead man. So genuinely, we should get married and find a life partner and pray to God. If it doesn't work out, don't forget about it. I have a friend of mine who had the same thing. He's married once, faith. He's a doctor today. She found a doctor girlfriend who was married on the faith. Both of them lived together for the past 10 years. Their kids all grown. They travel the world. They don't have any paper. They keep it that way, and it's work out everywhere for somebody. In fact, the woman told him, "I want to get married." The guy said, "Well, you feel insecure. That's why I want to get married. Why should I marry you? You feel secure, then I feel insecure." No, I like it this way. You don't want it. You move on and move on. They all agree and they live their life together. Is it right? No, but what after a fair marriage, morality level comes down a little bit. I'm sorry, guys.
Yes, it does.
Now, Dr. God, Sylvia, you have something to say.
No, the doctor is right, because a lot of times when you make several attempts at these marriages and you keep failing and you're attempting and you keep failing, then there's something wrong. It's not for you. Because a lot of times we go into marriages, like I think that was the first part of the session that we started. We go into these marriages with all different reasons. I mean, for different reasons, should I say. Some of us are in there because truly want to be somebody's wife or somebody's husband. Others want to go in there for aesthetics because I am a missus and everybody's going to call me a missus. Some of them go in, like I said, for gold digging because this man, like you rightly said, he's a millionaire, he's this and he's that, and I want something from him. So each person's right to be in that institution is relative.
Okay, that said, I think we're moving to the end of the broadcast. Dr. Ogoja, we'll start with you. What is your last word on before you say I do?
Before you say I do, make sure you are mature enough as a guy. Make sure you are willing to forgive. Make sure you are willing to say sorry even when you are wrong. And make sure you are willing to accommodate your spouse's excesses and look at the good things and ignore the negative. And also be willing to walk out if you can't take it anymore.
Okay. Sylvia, please, your last word on this topic.
Yes. Make sure that you build trust among yourselves before you say I do. There should be loyalty. You should command your own happiness among the two of you. You should learn to give each other that emotional support. It shouldn't always be about me. Think about your friend. You should humble yourself. As well, you should look at the financial health of both of you. If we get married, will we be able to support ourselves in such a manner that we'll both be comfortable? It doesn't necessarily have to be $1 billion. But if I'm making this money and you're making that money, can we live happily together? Because money usually is the root of evil. Stop all the selfishness. It's not always about you. Have some patience and learn to forgive. The doctor brought up Hillary Clinton and her husband. She forgave him and they moved on. Not that what he did was right. No, absolutely not. Communication. Talk to one another. Because once you communicate and you commit to one another, guess what? Everything else falls into place. So happiness. It's not always the same. It's not always going to be roses every day where you're constantly in a happy mode. Sometimes you fight. Sometimes you curse each other. Sometimes you sleep in separate rooms. But guess what? As a husband and wife, never separate your beds. Always sleep together. And never go to bed angry after you say I do.
Thank you so very much. This topic has a sequel, a follow-up next weekend, or next week, beginning tomorrow actually. We will post it after you say I do. What next? How should you tend the garden? How should you ensure that the plants grow up and mature and produce other seeds and other fruits? So please, let's stay on the topic. Before I do, next week, after you say I do, what next? This has been Africa Media Corporation and the Africa Online Media Corporation treating the topic marriage before you say I do. It's been a pleasure. There's been Reverend Palm, there's been Dr. Ogoji, and our great guest, Sylvia Litana Robertson. I hope I got that right. Because
Yes,
I
she
didn't
did.
script it. I didn't write it down. I just saw the posting to me from Reverend Palm, and I retained the name, which I don't usually do very well. But thank you so much. Make it a point to be with us next Sunday. And by then, Reverend Pam continues to send her apologies for not being able to be on this day as she wanted to. The technical difficulties will be overcome. And next Sunday, we will be live again on Africa Online Media Corporation with the topic, After You Say I Do. What next? Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much.
Asanglefak Nkemleke.
Good
Bye.
night. Thank you for the time.
Thanks. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye, Doug.
Bye. Thanks.